So this next lesson will cover one of the most popular workflows that we set up with Drivve Image, and that's the legal workflow. So Drivve Image was one of the first products available for the MFP that allowed you to actually configure bait stamping from the device panel. What that means is that the attorney or the company or the court can paginate or annotate the document directly at the device panel. It also means that they can add watermarks and custom text like confidential or whatever they want at the bottom of the page. So I'm going to create a legal workflow that does not only bait stamping but a couple other important functions of Drivve Image. And we're just going to call this profile legal. We'll say bait stamp and file a doc. So the input for this profile is pretty straightforward. What we're going to do is only ask the user to select the doc type. And here's a good point. It's always important to tell the user what they're doing here. Don't just say doc type, say select the doc type. That way they'll know what they're supposed to do there without it having to be explained to them. So this field is going to be a list field, and what that means is I'm going to give the user a selection of options, and this is going to be used for the file name. So let's say it's a deposition. Let's do a couple more legal ones. Arraignment. I think I spelled that right. Let's say it's a arrest report or a motion. So the attorney or the paralegal or whoever is going to be asked for the document type. This means that they're not going to have to type that out every time, and if someone misspells something or calls something differently, then we'll always be able to find it because it's uniform. So the next thing that I'm going to do is actually enable Bates numbering. And like I said, Bates numbering, as you can see in that little graphic, is the pagination of documents. So by default, it's not optional, but what I'm going to do is actually enable it as optional so that the user can define which Bates number is going to be put on the document. So once this opens up, I see different Bates profiles. The most common one here is just user defined. Let's see, defined. And what this means is the user is going to be able to pick what's actually getting set up here. So the prefix, numbering start, number of digits, suffix, I'm going to actually allow them to do the prefix, allow them to do the suffix, and actually pick where the number starts. There's some other options here, like we can add a margin around the document. We can change where the bait stamp is going to appear. You see there's a little preview there. And then over here, if you wanted to set up watermarks on the document, you can configure that too with the transparent image. So there's profile as user defined. The user will be able to select whatever they want there. But often what we see is that people create specific profiles for different cases or different counties or courts. And what this will do is it'll actually store where the number left off. Remember, Bates numbering is typically a annotated, pagination of the document with a sequential number. So in this case, let's say like this is matter number 1, 2, 3, 4, and what we're going to do is actually default that here. So matter number 1, 2, 3, 4, and the suffix, I'm going to make the suffix always the document type and maybe the date and the time, and let's say even the device location. And here we're not going to let them modify it. We're going to always make it 5 digits. And all the user is going to have to do is hit matter number 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to do that for us. It's going to keep the starting number so that if I do the first 20 pages, the next person that scans using this profile, it'll start the number at 21, which is very helpful. So now I've got two profiles here, and you can easily see how many of these individual ones can be created and used. But I'm just going to stick with one user-defined and one specific one. For the convert files, typically in a legal environment, we're going to be using a PDF-A, which is PDF archival format. I'm going to hit select there, OK. So it's always going to be a searchable PDF archival document. And here in output, what I'm going to do is something similar to before. I'm going to hit enabled, so file output, and I'm going to always put these documents into, let's see, the Drivve scans, and let's make a legal folder here. It's always going to go into the legal folder, and what I'm going to do is actually create a folder automatically based off the Bates prefix. The file name generation, this is where that list field comes in. It's always going to be select the doc type. And come to think of it, I'm going to go back to the input here, and I'm going to make that field required, which means that they have to do that before they can continue. So that's been set up. That's pretty straightforward. I'm going to go ahead and simulate that profile here for you now. So now I have AP, legal, and scan the folder. With legal, the user is going to be asked to select a doc type, and see it's red there, so they can't do anything until it's been selected. And then here with Bates stamping, I'm going to pick my prefix and see it's set to user defined by default, which means that I can change the suffix, I can set the start number, and I can set the postfix. But I can do that. I'm also, maybe I'll do matter number 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I select matter number 1, 2, 3, 4, remember that all that's already defined for me. So there's nothing really for me to do. So here I'm going to hit scan and finish. And what that's going to do is it's actually going to paginate that document with the matter number. It's going to create a folder for me in the legal department. And it's going to keep that starting number so that the next person who scans, that number will be there. So here we go. Created a new folder, matter number 1, 2, 3, 4. And here's that document. If I open it up, it's going to open it up in Foxit Reader. And you see that it paginated it up there with that prefix. Now obviously that's a little big. I could go back and shrink that a little bit, and there is the NFR watermark that comes with our license. So remember, that wouldn't be on there if you had a real license. But so that's how that works, and the next page that comes through, it'll be a 2.